Stay tuned to our planet, also known as STOP, a 28-episode online climate action series for young people. We are showcasing Australian eco-warriors. We want to inspire, educate and celebrate the young people who are championing the planet. And it's hosted by this guy, YouTuber Matthew McKenna.
Hi everyone. So our moderator Dan Ilic is a comedian, a presenter and an award-winning podcaster. He also famously called out Australia's climate policy on the world's biggest billboard. Nirvana Talukder was only 12 when she ditched school to go attend her very first climate protest. And up until leaving high school, she helped lead the School Strike for Climate, and now is a global teen advisor for the UN Foundation's Girl Up. That's crazy. Also, we have Zoe Iron, who is a UTS alumni, right? That's not all she is. She's also a stylist and a social media content producer. But her real talent is finding amazing second-hand outfits. She also hosts clothing swap parties. So she's actually an op shop expert. Emerson Brophy is a comedian, a singer-songwriter, and a musician, and has some amazing lyrics like banks to boycott for funding fossil fuels, right? And what was the other one that I had? It was, oh yeah, run the crap test on your news. So it's no wonder that his TikTok views are absolutely in the millions. And finally, we have Lottie Dalziel, who is an award-winning sustainability advocate. She is also the founder of Banish, which is a marketplace designed to help Australians live more eco-friendly lives. So, an incredible group of people with such amazing insights. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy everything they have to say.
I'm excited to be hosting this panel today because today is Global Youth Day. Now, I have quite a strong connection to the youth. Not many of you may know this, but at one point in time, I used to be a youth myself, I can tell you. What you may not know right now is that there are 1.8 billion young people in the world right now. It's a crazy cohort. They're a mix of Gen Alpha all the way to Gen Z, so 10 to 24. And due to social networks, young people right now are some of the most connected and global in the world. We see time and time again, regardless, young people stepping up to the plate to show leadership, where often leadership there is none from the adults. So this panel, we've got some great youth leaders on climate, and we're going to be asking them where, why, and how young people can positively take part in climate action and offer some solutions to those who want to get involved but don't know how. All right, so folks, there's heaps of ways of kind of getting involved in climate action. Don't Google it, there's too many. And not everyone can blow up a gas pipeline, that's illegal. So starting smaller might be your speed. Lottie, how do you help people participate in climate action?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, it's kind of like presenting it to people like a menu. It's kind of like all of those health and fitness goals that you see. You can never do all of them all at once.
And if you eat everything on the menu, you're going to explode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you can just eat one entree main and maybe 2 desserts.
I love that.
And then you'll be fine. So it's all about making it simple, easy, and just so achievable.
Yeah. So what do you suggest? What's the entry level kind of climate action thing?
I think the biggest thing that you can do is when you next take out your card or your phone to make a purchase is just think about the planet too, and think if it's something that is going to be good for the planet. It could be a fashion purchase. It could be something in terms of single-use plastics. There's so many different things, and if we just pause, and then maybe you will still tap, but you've at least had that thought first.
You're part of this thing you've created called Banish. It's an incredible platform. I've been there. I love it. You've got amazing things there. There's so much going on there. Can you tell us a little bit about Banish and the kinds of things you're doing there?
Yeah, so Banish is first and foremost an education platform that helps teach people how to live more sustainably, and we've created a sustainability hub which is just around the corner at Central Station, where we process and recycle hard to recycle items like bottle top lids and soy sauce fishies in-house at Central Station. We've got a shredder, we've got an extruder, we're about to get an injection molding machine, all of these really fun things, but we also teach people there. So we do different workshops and education because it's all about, I believe that everybody wants to do something when it comes to the planet, but they don't know where to start. So that's where we are. We're that starting point to go, well, here's what you can do about it. The why is I felt like 7 years ago, I wanted to do something for the planet, but I wasn't sure where to start. And I had conversations with other people who also felt the same way. So I created the solution to the problem that I had. And that's what keeps me going, is our community that we've got and the people around us who are also pushing, also fighting, also wanting to do something for the planet. And it's those conversations that keep me going.
Growing up meant starting a career, getting married, buying a house, having kids. But growing up today is quite different. One survey says that 39% of global youth were hesitant to have children due to climate change. And in Australia, that number's 43%.
Got to say, I think I'm more of a cat person.
Right.
Yeah, but no, that's definitely a thought I've had. Yeah, I definitely do think like one day I'd love to be a mum, but at the moment, a lot of my time is really now focusing on making the world a more livable and better place for the kids that are already here.
Yeah, tell us about your advocacy. You did something incredible when you were in high school, running School Strike for Climate. How has that translated now you're out of school? What kind of stuff are you doing?
You know, I'm still kind of easing into that transition, myself. But you know, the School Strike has helped me make so many friends and given me access to a community of so many like-minded organisations and people. So right now, I'm kind of working with groups like Australian Youth Climate Coalition and trying to go from school strike protests to maybe more adult protests. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, so really trying to figure that out for myself right now as well.
Yeah, AYCC, been around since I was a youth, and it's such a great organisation. Emerson, what about you? I guess there isn't like a mid-30s strike for climate you can join?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
How do you connect with audiences who want to have a conversation about climate?
I find that I use music on my TikTok and my Instagram and all that kind of stuff to start those conversations, and I try and use that as like a bit of a Trojan horse to get people to start those conversations. I want to make it open for people who aren't as comfortable having those direct conversations with their networks, so that they can see this song about, you know, climate change or a certain climate action you can take, and then passively share it, or it's a very small action that you can take to sort of signal to people in your life that you are open to having those conversations.
Now, 27% of people aged 18 and 24 volunteered formally in 2023. Another survey has that figure at 40%. Lottie, do you think that more youth people volunteer at Banish than older people?
Honestly, we've got a pretty great spread of a bit of everybody. And I think that's one of my favourite things when we have the volunteering sessions is the conversations that people are having, because it's across generations. People are all there for the same reason and the same purpose, but they're having these great conversations across generations, so anybody is welcome.
No. Zoe, as a content creator, you've paired fashion with sustainability and climate action. Was that a conscious decision?
Yes, so for me, I've always wanted to wear secondhand and not buy first-hand fast fashion, and that's been something that I chose to do when I was, I think I was 17 and there on out. So then, obviously, when I started working as a stylist, when I started making TikTok videos, and when I started everything in my job, that's always been the standard. It's always going to be secondhand with me.
Oh, how do you do collabs then? How does Kate Spade reach out and say?
She doesn't, not yet. I'm not that important. And if any fast fashion brands were to reach out, some have. I say no, and
wow.
I often just screen. I get the Shein messages. I get team, and I'm like, have you watched one of my videos? I'm not going to be doing that.
So you are a bit of an op shop influencer.
Oh. Yeah, I feel like it's too generous a term, the op shop expert and influencer, but yeah, I guess.
An op shop genius, an op shop doctor.
Yes.
Professor op shop.
Professor op shop, that's what my formal title is.
Tell us a bit about that. When St Vincent de Paul see you coming, do they get excited and tidy up the shelves?
Yeah, So I actually have not because they know me from anything online, but I have a good deal with the girl from my local Vinnie's where she actually takes me down the back and through the doors with all the clothes that have a...
You get to see the stuff before everybody else.
Yes,
oh my God.
Do
people then give you hate online? You're like, oh, I was going to get that, but now you've got it.
No, I think the only hate I really get is when I post my op shopping videos, people will be like, I can smell this video. And I'm like, but I'm like, no, that's such a misconception. So they're the only hate things I really get is the anti-op shoppers. And my whole content is to myth bust as well. It isn't just yay, I bought this nice dress. It's also to be that's a myth. All the clothes here are cleaner than buying new with all chemicals, things like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us about your outfit.
Yeah, so I'm actually, yes, fully thrifted outfit. I got this in an op shop in Melbourne, but I'm from Sydney. And I got these off Depop, which is amazing, and it's such a good resource. If like nowadays I'm working 9 to 5, so I don't have time to get to the op shops. I only have like the Saturday to go. So Depop's amazing because then I can op shop when I'm like scrolling on the train on the way to work, and I just think it's such a good alternative and really shows there's no excuse to not op shop.
Yeah, like one crazy statistic I picked up along the way is like the average amount of time somebody wears an item of clothes is 7,
Yeah.
and then they throw it away.
Yeah.
As someone who hasn't
Why?
changed their clothing style since uni, that's very strange to me.
Yeah.
That's totally wild. Emerson, your song, What If Climate Change Isn't Real? It has got millions and millions of hits. It's got more hits than anything I've ever made. One reviewer said, what resonates with me the most is the underlying call to action. The line, think about the risk, because if we move too slowly, kids alive today just can't grow old on this planet. Grim, but it shocks people into thinking about how we all can contribute to climate change. How did that song come about?
Yeah, so that song came about by thinking of the different ways you can approach the conversation about sort of taking climate action. And you sort of do have to pick and choose which sort of tactics you hear from the other side, the sort of bit more skeptical side. You have to choose which items you want to respond to and which ones are sort of worth the time responding to. And that one was to sort of address the like, yeah, but if we take climate action, here's the like knock-on effect. It could have, you know, drastic effects on the economy if we shut down coal mines overnight and all this kind of, yeah, but what about this kind of mindset. And so that song was to humor that for a second and say, okay, what if it isn't real? What if we do like overreact and like, you know, clear the skies and let the plants heal at the expense of the economy? And then the other half of the video is, what if we underreact and the scientists with all of their scientific knowledge are actually correct? It's sort of trying to point out that it's the cost of overreacting is a lot less dire than the cost of underreacting.
That's true. Yeah. Nirvana, no one is making money from organising school strikes, are they? But it is a ton of work. So why do you do it?
You know, I think a lot of it kind of goes back to the second half of your song, that the fear and the hopelessness that a lot of youths feel in today's society. Especially for me, a lot of this journey started because I wasn't someone who could vote. Well, now I can, luckily, woohoo. But back then I couldn't vote, and I feel like a lot of my friends and my social circle felt like we weren't being heard, even though this climate crisis, it's a world that we're going to be living in, and we're going to be really bearing the consequences of everything that's happening. So taking to the streets was a really, really good way to not just build a strong sense of community, but to let not only government leaders and politicians, but also the public who can vote, know what we're thinking and how we're feeling. So that was really what went into it. Yeah.
Did anybody go to the school strike for climate a couple of years ago? Yeah, it was so good. It was like field day or the big day out. It was this crazy festival. It was amazing. And you folks did such a great job. So good. Did your school get behind it?
Actually, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I know teachers, a lot of my teachers were very, very supportive, but as a school, they couldn't really have any affiliations because they were like, we can't support kids ditching school. But a lot of the teachers were supportive, and the school community itself, so many friends showed up, and that's always been really great. But I think what being part of this movement has really showed me, a lot of youth today and a lot of people part of like this whole big climate movement, they have helped alleviate the stress to some sense by turning it into a sense of resistance and resilience. I've seen from everyone I've met in the past week that everyone has taken this fear and the sense of hopelessness or worry about the future and turned it into so many amazing things. And it's just so incredible to see.
Totally. We talked a bit about volunteering before, Lottie. How have you combined climate action and building a career?
That's what I try and do with Banish, is tell the stories of others and help inspire people to take action. because you can listen, you can look around and you can watch people. But the thing we need everybody in this room to do is just to go out there and do something.
Yes. How would you recommend people get involved in social media with climate action and advocacy? Let's start down here, Zoe.
I think just do it. I think if you care about what other people think about your opinions, about climate change, about just anything that's limiting you. For me, when I started my TikTok doing all of this op shopping and sharing it with the world, it came from a place of I don't care what my friends who knew me at school are going to think. They're going to see this, they might laugh.
I don't care.
I was like, I'm just going to put this out there and to see like how much it's catapulted not only just my activism and career. And I know there's a whole thing about not wanting to be self-promotion. Like if you come from an authentic place and you're yourself, that's not there anymore. It's just genuine.
Emerson, what do you reckon? People who want to get into it but are a little unsure.
Yeah. The thing about this topic, it's a topic to discuss, but it also intersects with so many other things like music or fashion or cooking or like literally anything. So if you want to make content about sort of taking climate action, like cross it over with something else that you enjoy and just remind people that if you care about this topic, you don't have to make it your be all and end all. You can sort of use that as a way of reminding people that, hey, you can like sustainably do everything. Like if you're wanting to make content about gadgets, you can talk about sustainability gadgets and climate and fashion, cooking, music, like whatever you want to make content about generally, you can find a way to bring your climate advocacy into that.
Nirvana, what about you?
I think social media is a really great place for connection and for learning. For me, going to strikes as a 12-year-old, transforming that from just being someone who's going to strikes to someone who's organising and getting behind the scenes and like really getting this movement and the strikes going, that I have to credit it to social media. Yeah, I think really like reaching out to organisations, following those people and those creators that are really talking about the topics that you like and sharing those posts yourself is a great way to make friends who have those same values and really care about those things. And from there, you can also go into different organisations, learn about new things, although you should probably double check what you're learning on social media.
I mean, when you were that young, can you remember when you started posting about climate? Like, can you remember like the first climate post or?
I was around in year 7, so it was 2019, I would say. Yeah, 2019. And I think a lot of it was because of the trajectory of the Fridays for Future movement. So many people of my age, we were really for the first time properly learning about what climate change was. And it was the first time that this issue was being taken to headlines and people weren't saying climate change is fake, And from there, that was probably the first time I shared and actually got learning about what the climate crisis was.
Right. Lottie, what about social media for you? What do you and people wanting to get into it?
Yeah, we use social media every day as a tool to educate people. I think the best thing that I see with social media is connection, and it's being able to talk to people who are ready and eager to learn. And for us, a lot of our community is in remote and regional areas because they feel like they want to do something, but they're not surrounded by a climate action week. They're not able to engage in their local area, or they might be the only one in their town that feels that way. So I think my advice is, yes, just go for it and to get out there. But also I think it's to not be too hard on yourself. I think it's very difficult because there are always metrics. You can always see how many likes you're getting, how many views you're getting. So I think if you are able to kind of take a step back, and I think for us, when we see the most success with our social media is when we're having the most fun ourselves and when we're creating the most meaningful content. And I think when you're posting not just to get something out there, when you're posting quality, that's when you start to see the results.
Yeah, that's really good. Zoe, you're doing a lot of nodding
Yes.
over there. Do you agree with Lottie?
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I got sent this TikTok the other day, which was like encapsulates exactly what you're saying, where I've been, because I work full time in social media now for a company, and I'll post a video and I'll get like 20 views, and I'll be like, oh no, I'm stuck at my job, I'm gonna get fired. And then like my friend sent me this meme because she knows I get down about it, and then it's like a room full of 20 people and it's like full out, like, and then it goes the next like 100 people to like thousands, like auditoriums, stadiums, and sometimes when you get like 1,000 views, you're still thinking something flopped, and it shows you a room full of 1,000 people. And you're like, that's a lot. And if even if one person in that room takes on what you're saying, they're going to make their little difference, and that is going to make such a huge effect. So it's like, we'll just keep going and don't read into it and never stop just because, you know, you had one video, like it's still affecting people.
Yeah, when I see 10 people that like one of my videos, I'm like, yeah, but they're really cool people.
And that's the other reason to make content that you really care about, because ultimately you can't control how the algorithm works, who's going to see it, whether they're going to interact and like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But you can control whether you're making things that you enjoy and whether you are making things that you care about. So that's a thing that I had to sort of learn after going through the ups and downs and really like tying my ego to the views for that first little while I was doing it. That if you just make sure you're still having fun doing what you're doing, that's the only way to, you know, sustainably keep making content.
We have a saying in like comedy writers' rooms, which is like, there's always another joke. It's basically trying not to be emotionally attached to the things you're creating, because there's always another joke, there's always another post. Just make the next thing, and the next thing might be the thing that goes. And it's okay to have something that doesn't go so well, because the next thing might be the thing that goes really well.
There will always be people online who will find ways to tear down whatever you've done.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
As I'm sure anyone who's posted anything online will know. It's the blessing and curse of having an audience, is that you can form great communities out of it, but you also need to like decide and learn which comments to just sort of poke fun at, take a screenshot, send it to your friends and be like, look at this loser complaining, and then just, you know, keep going with your life.
When I post on twitter.com, I would do a climate joke or something that'd be a bit pointed, and all of my followers will like it and share it and get thousands of retweets. And then 48 hours later, all the people who don't follow me will then call me various names. And it's so easy to ignore. Any pitfalls for you, Nirvana? Is there anything that kind of steers you away from social media?
You know, I think I do use social media quite a bit, especially when it comes to promoting events and going back to that point of like community building and connecting. But I try to kind of keep my, I'll call it work-life balance, even though it's not really work. I try to keep that very clear, because I know social media is kind of how I got into this space of like climate advocacy, but at the same time, really in terms of having an audience in that community, I haven't really built that yet on social media. I think when I try to connect with my community that I have within like these climate spaces, a lot of the time it's through things like workshops or face-to-face events. And so that's kind of why hopefully maybe one day I can take inspiration from all of you and step into that social media scene, but not just yet.
I want to talk about leadership. I mean, you've all kind of gone out on a limb to be a leader, whether you wanted to or not. What kind of qualities do you think about when you're kind of in this position? Maybe Nirvana, we'll start with you.
You know, I think leadership, it comes down to, first of all, like Zoe and Emerson was saying, passion, really caring about what you're really representing and the community you're representing, but also learning and storytelling. Leadership is not just about, you know, saying, hey guys, follow me, but more like really connecting.
But in your case, when you were doing School Starter Trial, it was like, hey guys, let's go to the domain!
Yeah, this way. But it's really about connecting with people through stories, not just, you know, numbers and statistics and saying this is what happened and that's what happened, but really sharing the experiences and the emotions that tie us together, but also hearing other people's perspective on it and learning. And I think this is a tactic that we've tried to use in a lot of our recent school strikes. We've done things called teach-ins, where basically we bring in a lot of different communities that we're working with and different stakeholders, and we create a space for learning and sharing our own stories and experiences with this crisis, no matter what it's rooted in, no matter whether you're very educated and a professor or you're just coming here as a young student. And so I think that's what leadership is really about, connecting with people on that human level. So yeah.
That is great. That knowledge transfer piece is so cool. You do a bit of that at Banish.
Yeah, I think for me, we're all leaders. I don't think there is just one leader. And I think that ultimately we're all just looking for somebody else to probably go first. And I think that's often the scariest step, is putting yourself out there, being the first mover, the first shaker, going out on a limb. And I think that probably is what is often defined as a leader, but I think in so many opportunities you can be the leader. You can be the leader when you're the only person in the coffee shop line with a reusable cup, because you're actually a role model to everybody else in that line, saying, I'm not going to use a single-use coffee cup tomorrow, or I'm going to be a leader because I am going to be the one in my friendship group who says, let's have a clothes swap. That is leadership. And I think that so many times we look for somebody else to do it when we can just be the leader that we need.
Give me an example of some global leaders who you admire in the climate space. Is there one global person who's doing great work? Let's start, Zoe. We'll just come down the line.
There's not one that's doing as much as I want them to do, I would say. Like, I'm thinking like politicians, but I think non-politicians, Alice Eady is really fantastic. She's a filmmaker and she focuses on climate change and she does everything that I want to do, and she's young and her films are just incredible, and she has her own company, and I think she's only a few years older than me, and I'm like, how do you do that?
What was her name again?
Alice Eady. She's in the UK, yeah, and she's Earthrise Studios is her company.
Oh, that's awesome. Alice Eady. All right, Emerson.
Ooh, I don't know if I have anyone on the top of my head.
Mate, I'm right here.
Like, I mean, you joke, but genuinely, I think what you're doing is really incredible. Just sort of using that comedy to call out the people who need to be called out, and I think that is very, it like speaks to the Australian sense of like larrikinism almost. So, not to blow smoke.
Nirvana.
For me, it's this South Asian climate activist. Her name is Ayesha Siddiqui, and she's on the UN climate team with Antonio Guterres. She's really cool because a lot of her work brings together, talks about the intersection of climate and gender, which is definitely something I'm interested in, would love to go down the path of learning about more and talking about more. And so she's really a cool figure who talks about those things, and yeah, that's something I find really inspirational.
I think mine is slightly older. His name is Sir David Attenborough, and I just love him so much. I would love to take him out for dinner if anybody has any connections, but I think he's been doing what he's been doing for such a long time, and the way that he educates and he talks to people resonates with almost everybody I know. And I think to be able to have that appeal to so many people, to be able to teach so many people, is something very powerful and something that I really admire.
What's one thing our viewers can do immediately today to take climate action seriously?
I think, mine is so easy. It's just op shop. You don't buy anything new, don't shop fast fashion. It's cheaper and it's cooler because no one else has what you're wearing.
Love it. Emerson.
I'm going to go back to the banks thing. You can, anyone over 14 can start a bank account, and if you're under 14, speak to your parents and say, hey, what bank are we with? Why are we with them? Let's change to a better one.
I'd have to start the conversation with people you think need to hear this, especially in the lead up to our federal election, really talking about climate change more openly with people, because it's a really serious issue. So if we start taking it seriously in our dinner time conversations or when we're out with friends, that's a really great way to just take a simple step towards the right direction.
Excellent.
I think mine would be to do that thing that you've been meaning to do. I think we all know in the room what that is, whether it is op shopping, whether it is starting a worm farm, whether it's starting your Brad collection. We all have that something that we've been putting off, but today is your day to do that.
I'm sure there are not many 14-year-olds who are thinking about getting a heat pump, but I got my first 2 quotes for a heat pump for my house this week. So there you go. I've been meaning to do that for a year and a half. So thank you. That is a great advice. Do the thing. Do you have any questions down the front here?
I was wondering, for the 4 of you, so far in your careers, have you had people from older generations who have supported you, and how have they done it? And if you haven't, what would you want the older generations to do to support you?
Good question.
I have been really lucky that I've had a lot of support from people who, I'm not going to say are a couple of steps ahead of me because I think it's a very new space, this space, but I've been really lucky to have some mentoring and some just people that I can call on for advice. And I think that has been invaluable. So my advice for people who are maybe think that they're kind of aging out of this industry or this area is to be available, because there are so many times when just having a conversation with somebody makes such a difference. I had a chat with somebody yesterday afternoon and I walked away just feeling so heard, so seen and so grounded.
Yep. Nirvana.
I'd just say, yeah, I've had a lot of support from people from different generations, but what I would really say is leveraging the platform or the space or whatever it is that you already have, such as a built career. I know yesterday we had a really great conversation about how young people might not have the assets to make change that people from older generations already do. So kind of using that for the better and sharing, or using like the voting power you have, or using like the platform and the career you have to share it with people and share it with these young people and to hear their voices, but also to take that action that young people might not have the power to do yet.
Zoe, do you have any
Yeah,
mentors along the way?
all the oldies love me because I wear dresses that they used to wear. So a lot of support here.
So your suggestion was to use Depop
Yes.
or whatever. I've just signed up for it.
Yay!
Doesn't that mean that I'm going to have all my stuff sent over sea and land and burn carbon emissions to get those clothes to me?
Yes, but my thoughts here, it's sort of what like Lottie's been saying as well. There's always going to be a downside. Like we can't be perfect, right? Like I have to get to work and I have to get in a vehicle. Like I work like 2 hours away. If I was starting that on foot every day, it'd be insane. So there's always something that's going to be difficult about it. But just making these changes and making it accessible, just that little step of something, it's accumulating to something, and to push people away from making those changes by being like, but that's not perfect, but this, it'll go overseas, it'll be all the fuel to get there, that sort of thing. That's going to deter people from this real change, and the real change is so important. So I always take my activism as something where I want to be kind and I want to be inclusive and I want to make sure everyone feels welcome and not shamed if they're not doing it perfectly. I'm not doing it perfectly. Everyone here intimidates me. But so I think, yes, there's going to be flaws to it, but at least you're doing something, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Look, I want to thank Lizzie, who created STOP. Stay tuned to Our Planet. It is an educational series. It's on YouTube. They've got a whole education package out there for teachers to connect with Stay Tuned to Our Planet, so make sure you do that. Matt did a great job in hosting it. It's a very engaging show. Well done, Matt. And I want you today to give a big thank you to our wonderful panel, Zoe, Emerson, Nirvana, and Lottie Dalziel. And thank you for coming to this panel at Climate Action Week Sydney. Good night, Australia. Good night, UTS. That's better.